Ukraine is changing, sometimes in unexpected ways. Ukraine is large, a nation rich in undiscovered traditions nourished by numerous historical and cultural influences, creating great diversity within its borders. Travel through the industrial, pro-Russian East, the golden domes of countless Orthodox cathedrals, the impressive and monumental capital Kyiv, beautiful Odesa, and striking Crimea on the southern coast, as well as the rolling hills of the west with the welcoming Lviv. Let's explore together and discover 30 of the most interesting and extraordinary facts about Ukraine. Near the small town of Kyiv, located in the northwest of Ukraine, lies what is considered one of the most romantic places in the world, called the Tunnel of Love, a nearly abandoned 3-kilometer railway stretch where the movement of trains and the surrounding foliage have formed a spectacular landscape, which resembles the entrance to a fantasy world, which is why it is visited by thousands of couples from all over the world each year. Ukraine is a country located in Eastern Europe with an area of more than 603,000 square kilometers. It is the second largest country in Europe after Russia. Ukraine is located in a strategic position historically speaking, with borders with European countries, Belarus to the northwest, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary to the west, Romania and Moldova to the southwest, with the European part of Russia to the north and its Asian part to the east, in addition to bordering the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov to the south. The capital and most populated city of Ukraine is the city of Kyiv, located on both sides of the Dnieper River, which flows from north to south to the Black Sea. Kyiv is the city of golden domes, one of the most famous being the Monastery of St. Michael. But the most visited, without a doubt, is St. Sophia Cathedral, a World Heritage Site, a jewel of Byzantine art. Kyiv is a city full of monuments like the Golden Gate of Kyiv, access to the city in the 11th century, the famous Monument of the Founders, or the Motherland Monument. In Kyiv there is also the Arsenal Metro Station, the deepest metro station in the world, built 105 meters underground, inaugurated in 1960 during Ukraine's Soviet era. The journey from the surface to the platforms is a 5-minute descent in 2 sections of escalators. The station is so deep because it was designed as a nuclear shelter, which is why it includes several bunkers distributed throughout its tunnels. In addition to Kyiv, the main and most populated cities of Ukraine are Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine, located in the northeast of the country and the first capital of the former Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, and the entire industrial center of the country, Odesa, called the Pearl of the Black Sea and the most important maritime commercial port of Ukraine, and Dnipro, located on the banks of the Dnieper River, in the center of the country, a center of the metallurgical weapons industry. Lviv, one of the most charming and best-preserved Ukrainian destinations. Founded in 1240 and named after Leo, the eldest son of the king of Ruthenia. Lviv is the largest city in western Ukraine. The entire historic center has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This city is full of monuments, galleries, and buildings. Lviv is home to incredible operas, ballet performances, and art galleries, often called the Paris of Ukraine. The old town has a very European air. Additionally, coffee lovers will find a scene hard to beat. Lviv is the city with the most cafes per capita in the world. The city has dozens of places where wonderful coffee is prepared. Odesa, located next to the Black Sea and the most important seaport in Ukraine, is currently considered by many as the most attractive tourist destination in the entire country due to its lush architecture and large beaches. During the 19th century, Odesa was the most populated city of what is now Ukraine, and this is reflected in the majesty of its buildings such as the Opera and Ballet Theater. The Odesa Passage, a 19th-century shopping arcade, or the Potemkin Stairs, a grand access to the city from the port. As a curious fact, Odesa was founded by a Spaniard, José de Rivas, admiral of the Imperial Russian Navy. The Carpathian Mountains cover an area of 190,000 square kilometers and, after the Alps, form the most extensive mountain system in Europe. The Carpathians provide Ukraine with a region of wooded hills, spectacular mountain lakes, mighty rivers, and picturesque waterfalls. Here rises Mount Hoverla, the highest peak in Ukraine. The Carpathians are the epicenter of Ukraine's rural folk culture, as well as the #1 vacation destination for hikers and nature lovers. The city of Bukovel. This place is the ski capital of Ukraine. This enormous resort features 63 slopes, as well as skating, snow tubing, and dog sledding excursions. In fact, it is the largest ski resort in Eastern Europe, surrounded by 3 mountains, including the highest peaks of the Carpathians. The views from this luxurious alpine ski resort are simply stunning. The Kamianets-Podilsky Fortress. Western Ukraine is famous for this fortress. In fact, it is one of the main reasons why tourists visit this fairy tale city. The Kamianets-Podilsky Castle was a crucial defensive stronghold in western Ukraine for centuries, with an unmatched history of repelling invaders, from Ottoman Turks to Tatars and Mongols. The castle is impressive, as it stretches picturesquely along the hillside that crosses the winding Smotrich River. It is undoubtedly one of the most picturesque fortresses in Eastern Europe. Ukraine is the largest producer and exporter of sunflower oil in the world. Ukraine has been producing sunflower oil since the 19th century and currently produces 1/3 of all the sunflower in the world. In 2020, it exported the record amount of 717,000 tons. About 80% of this production is exported to India. The Dnieper River is the 4th longest in Europe and the most important in Ukraine. The river is usually divided into 3 parts. The upper part, from the highlands of the Russian Valdai Hills to Kyiv. The middle part usually refers to the area between Kyiv and the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia. There lies the island of Chortitsia, officially listed as one of the 7 wonders of Ukraine. And the lower part includes the mouth of the river into the Black Sea. The Dnieper River is important not only for its dams that provide hydroelectric power, but also for facilitating trade and providing a waterway to transport goods to and from various European nations. The vyshyvanka is the traditional garment of Ukraine. Vyshyvanka means embroidery in Ukrainian, also known as sorochka, which means shirt in Ukrainian. It is made 100% of linen and hand-embroidered with different geometric, plant, and animal motifs in many colors. Each oblast of Ukraine has its own unique sorochka pattern. For a Ukrainian, wearing the sorochka is a special event full of meaning. It is an expression of all that is good: health, love, well-being, beauty, and tradition. A pisanka is a Ukrainian Easter egg decorated with traditional or religious motifs. The tradition of decorating eggs is common among many Slavic peoples who, in the pre-Christian era, worshipped the sun and considered the birds closest to the sun as celestial beings and the eggs as magical and celestial objects, hence the tradition of decorating them and considering them special objects. This tradition merged with the Christian tradition, becoming Easter eggs and thus arriving in America. Ukrainian food. Ukrainian cuisine is very varied and exciting, with different ethnic minorities and a rich multicultural history that brings a range of different foods to the table. However, the most famous Ukrainian dish is borscht. It consists of a beetroot soup, cabbage, and potato. The real borscht also contains meat, mostly pork. The most popular traditional dishes are vareniki, which are traditional Russian dumplings filled with a vegetarian stuffing of potatoes, onions, and fried mushrooms, and holubtsy, which are cabbage rolls filled with rice, carrot, and meat. Ukraine is home to 5,000 castles and fortresses. Ukraine is the perfect destination for those who like to visit historical places, such as beautiful castles with exquisite architecture that recall the glorious past of the country. There are more than 5,000 fortifications in the country, most of them located in the western part, and each one has its own atmosphere. Their surroundings give them a special charm and dress these beautiful giants with lush landscapes. Ukraine has a great historical and cultural wealth. Beautiful churches dot the cities, which is why Ukraine is called the land of domes and churches. Ukraine is home to 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including the St. Sophia Cathedral of Kyiv and the historic center of Lviv, as well as the unique wooden churches of the Carpathians and the beech forests that surround them. The Kyiv Cave Monastery or Pechersk Lavra is the oldest monastery in Ukraine and one of the holy places of the Eastern Orthodox religion. It covers 28 hectares surrounded by walls that include churches, monasteries, and museums. Its origins date back to the year 1051, when it was founded in a set of caves on hills near the Dnieper River, now the historic center of the site. During the era of Kievan Rus, it became the most important pilgrimage site of the realm. In 1990, it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is currently one of the most visited places in the city of Kyiv. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, which today is a chilling ghost town in the northern part of Kyiv province. Ukraine was the center of one of the greatest catastrophes of the 20th century. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded in 1986, completely destroying a community of Ukrainians. Soviet authorities established the exclusion zone 36 hours after the accident, evacuating about 49,000 people from their homes. Pripyat was the most affected. The exclusion zone was later expanded to 30 kilometers, evacuating another 68,000 people from their homes. Chernihiv is one of the oldest cities in Ukraine, located on the banks of the Desna River in northern Ukraine, and features magnificent medieval architecture, especially the five-domed Cathedral of the Transfiguration and the Church of Catherine with its golden domes. It has ancient monasteries located outside the city that once served as residences for bishops, and the 18th-century Chernihiv Palace with its beautiful neoclassical architecture, vast gardens, and lovely lake. Chernivtsi, nicknamed the Little Vienna of Ukraine, along with the city of Lviv, is considered one of the main cultural centers of western Ukraine. Chernivtsi is one of the oldest cities in Ukraine, prosperous during the medieval Kievan Rus, hence its great medieval Slavic architectural development. Today, along with Lviv, it is considered one of the most beautiful cities in all of Ukraine. Ukraine is divided into 24 administrative divisions called Ovnists and one autonomous region, Crimea, in dispute with Russia since 2014. Two cultural worlds predominate in today's Ukraine. The West with European influence, Ukrainian language, and where the tradition of the Soniatos predominates as religion, Greco-Latin Rite, and subjected to the Vatican, and the east of the country, with great historical influence from Russia, Orthodox religion, Russian Rite, and where 71% of the population have Russian as their basic language of communication. The formation of Ukraine dates back to the year 882 AD, the year in which the Slavic tribes formed the medieval state of Kievan Rus, a state that at its greatest extent in the mid-11th century stretched from the Baltic Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south. Kievan Rus is considered the cultural origin not only of Ukrainians, but also of Belarusians and of Russia itself. This state came to an end after the Mongol invasions in the mid-12th century. Ukraine has one of the oldest constitutions in the world. The Constitution of Philip Orlik, drafted by a Ukrainian Kosaku in 1710. It established a democratic norm for the separation of powers in government, among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. It also limited the executive authority of the headman or the chief of the army and established a democratically elected parliament called the General Council. This law was drafted 3 decades before Montesquieu published his famous work The Spirit of the Laws in Geneva, and more than 65 years before the U.S. Constitution. The ethnic composition of Ukraine. The ethnic divisions of Ukraine date back to the imperial era, when regional borders were highly contested by the Russian Empire, the Habsburg Empire, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The southeast of Ukraine has historically been populated by ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians. In contrast, western Ukraine was part of the Habsburg Austria until 1918, and the area maintains strong ties with Europe. Other significantly represented nationalities are Romanians, Belarusians, Crimean Tatars, Bulgarians, Hungarians, Poles, Jews, and Armenians. Ukrainian is the only official language of Ukraine, although many Ukrainians are bilingual. In many areas, there are people who speak Russian or understand it. Interestingly, in 1934, Ukrainian was rated as the 3rd most beautiful language, behind French and Persian. Ukraine's economy is based on agriculture, accounting for 49% of its exports, possessing a huge agricultural industry that later became responsible for feeding the Soviet Union. The vast expanse of arable land with its fertile Chernozem, or black soil, the best in Europe, makes it an ideal place for growing wheat and other food products. That is why it earned the nickname the Breadbasket of Europe. Ukraine holds a strategic location. Ukraine is an important transit point for oil and gas coming from Russia and Central Asia to the European Union. Most of the gas and oil pipelines transporting hydrocarbon products from Russia to the European Union pass through the country. Currently, more than 70% of Russian gas enters Europe through Ukraine. Any interruption of these pipelines or the flow of oil products, as happened in 2005, would cause incalculable suffering for millions of Western Europeans who depend on gas from Russia. After the Russian-Ukrainian military conflict in 2014, 3 Ukrainian regions self-declared as independent nations with the support of Russia and without recognition from Ukraine and the international community, including Crimea. The Crimean Peninsula holds incalculable historical value. Numerous empires have passed through there. This is evidenced by its multiple and varied historical monuments, such as the Vorontsov Palace, a Russian imperial residence built between 1828 and 1848 in the style of the English Renaissance. Sudak, an important point on the Silk Road, and the site of a 14th-century Genoese fortress in Balaklava Bay, the site of the battle in which the Russian Empire took Crimea from the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Ukraine has faced various economic crises since its independence in 1991. Beyond highlighting the negative aspects this entails, at this point we want to mention that the cost of living in Ukraine is cheaper than in 89% of the rest of the world. Life in its capital, Kyiv, is, according to economic studies, 69% cheaper than in London and in cities like Odesa, where life is even cheaper. According to statistics, it is 16% cheaper than Bogotá, 25% cheaper than Mexico City, and 40% cheaper than Santiago de Chile. For you, what fact do you think we should have included in our list? Or which one of those we mentioned do you find the most interesting? Leave us your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and give this video a like. See you in our next exploration in search of wonders around our planet.